何？
私の全部をあげるからゴーストの全部使わせて。
勝つさ。
Hello and welcome to Sakura Society, an anime appreciation podcast where we aim to show you that anime is far more than just tentacles and catgirls. There's also countless stories of love, loss, laughs, hope, horror, and happiness that is dying to be found. And I, Brendan White, the Salt and Pepper Senpai, am here to help you find them. Sakura Society is proudly powered by our friends over at Audio Technica and Ice-T Aesthetics. Go upgrade your audio and streetwear merchandise games today, preferably after you finish this fantastic upcoming episode of Sakura Society. And joining in the Segoy studio is a returning friend who last graced us on the airwaves on episode 45, where we riffed on one of my favorite series, The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. Since then, he's gone on to big and bold things, virtualizing himself as the next great VTuber. You can find him everywhere at OniVT_, that is ONIVT_, sometimes with a second underscore, depending on the platform. Oni, you goddamn legend. Welcome back to the studio. How might you be doing, good sir?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I appreciate you answering the call very last minute. I had a different anime altogether that I thought I'd be talking about this week, but I chucked the beacon in the sky and the hero known as Oni has rolled in, and I'm looking forward to riffing with you for a second time here on the podcast.
Yeah, man. Any opportunity to jump on, I'm happy to.
You are an old veteran at this already, even though you're, new to the podcast game. It doesn't feel like that in any way, shape, or form. But I wanted to quickly touch base on where things are at with you. Like I mentioned there in the intro, you're dipping a toe into the world of VTubing. How's that been going for you, dude?
Yeah, really good. So I've done a debut stream recently, where I basically was meant to stream for 24 hours, but my internet had other plans. So I managed to do 12 before my internet crashed, and that was really good. Like I had such a blast. I think definitely having like a VTuber model has made streaming a lot easier for me. Like I'm not having to worry about the faces I'm pulling into the camera, which is like something that I was so conscious of previously. And it's definitely like great to have something there rather than doing a no cam stream to actually interact with the audience, which I adore. So
don't feel bad for not able to sort of perform a 24-hour stream on that first one, because that is a hell of a run going 12 hours anyway. So that's super impressive, and I'm sure everyone that stopped by the stream there loved everything you were doing. It is cool, and I've always been intrigued by the world of VTubing because similar to what you just said, like the thought of jumping on a camera and sort of showing my expressions and my reactions and whatever else for a prolonged period of time is not my favorite thing to do. So being able to sort of, well, not hide, but like reimagine myself as a new character, or maybe, the best of myself or the worst of myself, I guess, depending on what the avatar is that I'd potentially run with, is kind of cool and appealing and takes so much stress out. So I totally get it. And I love that it's becoming more and more accepted and more mainstream. Like, I think it's a really good way to eliminate that initial self-confidence, self-awareness, self-worry barrier to entry that a lot of people probably deal with that prohibit them from jumping into streaming.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another big thing is like you don't need all the lights and the camera and everything. So I use my iPhone. That's it. Like my iPhone and I've got lights to better light the space so it can read my face a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But my phone and the overhead light would have been fine.
It just shows how good tech is getting right now. Like the fact that you can stream and create content as this other variation of yourself just from your smartphone just blows my mind. Like I'm sitting here in my little studio / home office, and I've got lights around and cams and stuff, and like it gets hot in here. So knowing to be able to do it potentially with like very minimalistic equipment to cool this space is very tempting. Maybe I'm going to need to start sort of podcasting as my own VTuber so I can just, wear less and be more comfortable.
That's it. Absolutely.
Hell yeah. No, I'm excited to sort of see where you go with that. And I'm excited to talk more anime and stuff with you. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes of the episode, I wanted to sort of just quickly touch base with you and see what other content, whether it be anime, manga, video games, film, TV, etc., etc. What are you currently consuming at the moment that you're really vibing with?
So currently, I think the big thing that I hang on every single week, and you probably know what I'm going to say, is Chainsaw Man. Every single Tuesday, I wait up until 1 a.m. to read the manga because I'm like, I'm not getting on Twitter and having this spoiled for me. Like, but yeah, other than that one, which is currently going so crazy, is I've been watching so much anime that I can't even like list them all in my head as I'm thinking about them. But new JJK is out, new Frieren is out. This season is just pumping so much good content. Sentenced to be a Hero is like a smash out for this season, and I'm so glad that it's simul-dubbed as well, because I can just put it on like a Friday afternoon when I get home from work and just like watch a fun action anime, which is so good.
It's got such a great 80s/90s aesthetic to it as well. Like, I feel watching Sentenced to be a Hero, I feel it could sort of be running straight off the back of like an episode of He-Man or something. Like, it gives me such nostalgic vibes watching that series. And yeah, I love that it is one of the few sort of big name titles this season that does have that day one simul-dub, like you said. So that way we can go about our day or our night or whatever time period we're watching that latest episode and give it the attention, but also be able to check your phone here or there, or see what the pets or the partner's up to at the same time. So yeah, kudos to everyone involved with Sentenced to be a Hero, because it is a vibe. And that first episode running 60 minutes, I think those longer episodes are just such table and tone setters when it comes to anime. I hope more studios do it moving forward, because I love those more sort of prolonged, paced out first episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like it works so well to have something adapted in a way where it's giving you so much information in that first episode that you're immediately like, where's it going? Like, because you have like, some anime starts so slow. I feel like you're on episode 5 and you're only really leaving the first sort of like part of the story into like a proper arc. And it's like, man, I wish they didn't do that, because if it would have opened with like a short movie, an hour, which an hour is like 3 episode worth, right? So you're getting 3 episodes of content right there. And it's like the perfect time to step off and actually go into a proper arc rather than just that introduction.
Yeah, I think it's just a good way to not have to try and rush and cram as much into that 20 to 25-ish minutes on a good day as far as those first episodes. So getting that larger multi-course meal is just my preferred way of storytelling when it comes to anime. And I'm excited to be talking about, on this episode of Sakura Society, another anime that does very similar, but actually goes above that 60-minute time limit we mentioned with Sentenced to be a Hero, and runs close to 90 minutes. So, we get some really great, prolonged, sustained, fleshed out storytelling with the title in focus we've got today on the potty. And yeah, I am chuffed to be talking about this one with you.
Yeah, I'm so keen. This is my second time watching through it. I watched it on recommendation the first time, and then I've watched it again because we're talking about it today, and I'm stoked. It's such a good series.
So good. But yeah, if this is your first time stopping on by the podcast, firstly, thank you so much. We appreciate that. But secondly, what took you so goddamn long? Been doing this for a couple of years now, and there is a ton of fantastic content in the back catalog there. So be sure to go and cherry pick your favorite potential anime from that list of heavy hitters that we've talked about. Just like I mentioned with Oni earlier, we did The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity just at the back end of 2025, and it is still one of my favorite new anime to come out over the last few years. But Oni, what do you think? Shall we jump into this podcast?
Absolutely, let's go.
Okay, so first and foremost, imagine if your favorite idol got pregnant, you got murdered, reincarnated as her baby, and then had to watch everything fall apart from the inside. Today, we're diving into Oshinoko, where parasocial relationships get uncomfortably real, showbiz is a nightmare, and one 90-ish minute runtime episode will leave you emotionally destroyed. So let's talk about it. Let's start from the top here, where I guess we unpack, why this show matters. Let's set the stage. Where did this show come from, and why should people care about Oshinoko? So as far as that source material overview, Oshinoko started as a manga written by Aka Akasaka. Yes, the Aka Akasaka who gave us Kaguya-sama Love is War, with art by Mengo Yokoyari, known for Scum's Wish. It began serialization in Weekly Young Jump back in April of 2020. So you've got the mastermind behind one of the best romantic comedies of the last decade, teaming up with an artist known for emotionally devastating drama. That combo alone should have been a warning sign for what we're in for, Oni, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a heart-wrenching story. It's just this first episode alone, and it only gets better.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And so the anime dropped initially in April of 2023. And here's where it gets interesting. It's produced by Doga Kobo, the studio typically known for wholesome slice of life shows like Yuru Camp, Chikawa, Alia Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian, and a new game, not exactly who you'd expect to handle an IP like this. Well, we'll get right into that very shortly. But Oni, did you know anything about the studio Doga Kobo before this? Because I guarantee this isn't what you'd expect from them traditionally.
No, I'm the only other title that I actually sat down and watched from them that you just read out was Alia. I like, as much as cute as Shikawa is, it's not something I'll sit down to watch. And I guess a lot of the other ones are those more, cutesy sort of anime, which I not like really my vibe. So I didn't even know that's what they did.
Yeah, I was similar. Hey, dude, like I didn't really know much of this studio at all prior to Oshinoko coming out, a couple of years ago now. And it's funny because like Umari-chan's one that I love, and friend of the show, and Sakura Society co-founder Courtney, that's one of her favorite anime of all time. They've handled that, but yeah, it's mostly been very sort of light on safe, in parentheses, sort of titles that do fall into that slice of life sort of category. But Oshinoko sort of leans into that a little bit, but also does its own thing. So it's a title that's familiar with the stable that they've sort of been known for nearly 2 decades now, but it's also something that's a little different and left of center, and I think really helped further put the studio on the map.
Yeah, definitely.
So as far as the franchise scope goes from there, like people absolutely went feral for this when it debuted in April of 2023. The manga has since sold over 16 million copies. The manga is completed, so we have a full complete story that we're working our way through here with the anime currently. The anime premiere became one of the most watched anime episodes on streaming platforms at the time. A 3rd season recently debuted as of roughly two or so weeks ago now. It's since, not only because it was originally just sort of housed on High Dive, Crunchyroll have managed to also get the streaming rights for that. So Oshinoko is available on High Dive as well as the monster known as Crunchyroll. It has since also spawned a live action series, stage plays, and more discourse than just about any anime has a right to generate. The first episode alone, as I mentioned, runs for 82 minutes. It's basically a movie, and it made everyone collectively lose their minds when it dropped in April of 2023. And man, it made me re-lose my mind this past week as we've been doing the rewatch for the potty.
Yeah, I don't know. I had so much fun on the first watch of it, and the first watch I did watch in Japanese, in the original language, with subs, and then this rewatch I did in English, and both times were just like pretty full on, pretty like you're kind of sitting there going like, what is going on?
I did exactly the same, actually. Like my knowledge and background and familiarity with this franchise has typically just been done with the Japanese vocal track, but now doing this rewatch, now that we've got the English dub out, rewatching it this week, it felt familiar but fresh, because I think the different takes on certain characters, especially in this first episode that we're sort of focusing on, it feels like people we know as far as Ai and Goro and stuff like that, but like it also feels very fresh with just these different interpretations we get from the Japanese and the English. So it felt same, and I'll go into sort of my overall thoughts on that voice acting work later on in the potty, but either way, it still felt good, felt familiar, and it was nice, cutesy, yet dark comfort food for me. And I left watching that episode and then episode 2 and 3 this week feeling very full and very satisfied, I'll say.
Yeah, very much the same on my end. I think
Okay. So I think only the toughest part with an IP like Oshinoko is trying to categorize what this anime or this manga or this story is. Like I feel it's like if Perfect Blue, that industry expose documentary, and a reincarnation isekai had a baby, and that baby that it had trauma. That is probably what Oshinoko would be. Like people come in to compare it to shows like March Comes In Like a Lion for those emotional gut punches, or something more recent as well, like Wonder Egg Priority for sort of that industry commentary. But honestly, watching it again this week, there isn't many shows like Oshinoko. We do get, the idol and the fandom and that type of thing with various other IP out there, but then folding in this darkness and this, thriller type of vibe that sort of jumps in and out of the series over these seasons is putting it in very unique, in sort of very unique situations in a very unique positioning in the anime space, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely like it mixes the genres so perfectly. I think of something that is like psychological and supernatural and dark, and also like very sort of like slice of life, everyday kind of living, and it like meets in the middle to be such an interesting story.
For sure. Like knowing what you know now, how would you even sort of explain this show or this series to someone? Because I still don't think I've landed on like the perfect way to describe this anime to someone to sort of, I guess, land that initial hook and expectation setting.
Yeah, I I always draw the comparison of especially like the first sort of episode to Perfect Blue, because it is that sort of like criticism on like the industry, that of idols that really kind of like hits home the most in sort of like that first episode. Yeah, no, I always akin it to something like Perfect Blue meets like a revenge plot, which it more so for the later on, but definitely even as a baby, you see like Aqua being like, no, like I gotta do the most to protect everyone and make sure everyone's doing well. But it's definitely like I love the just like the sort of like colliding genres that it kind of merges as well. Like, you do have that sort of like uh that industry sort of like criticism going on, and then you break it down into like, oh, okay, but there's also supernatural stuff going on, which in the background, especially as we move later on, there's like other characters introduced that push that lore forward.
Yeah, and I enjoy, yeah, not sort of jumping too far ahead into future seasons, but I do enjoy the unpredictability and where this anime and this story takes us, because just as it feels like you've sort of found your footing and you understand this world and what's happened, like you said, there's some supernatural things that take place or get sort of more time to be showcased and sort of unpacked in these episodes. You go, whoa, okay, we're going here now. I did not expect this to happen. And it's just really good popcorn melodrama. Like it feels like the closest thing you'd get to, something like Passions or Days of Our Lives or Bold and the Beautiful, but just dialed up to like 35. Like
That's
it
it,
is
yeah.
so good and so fun. And yeah, I really, really adore this franchise. And I think what I really appreciate as well is that a lot of people out there also adore this franchise just as much, because it's had, a pretty hefty cultural impact and influence out there. Like this series, it matters far beyond just those sales. Like I said, there's 16 million, give or take, copies of the manga out in circulation. I've got the entire set over here off camera in my shelf, which is a nice and a proud sort of IP that I'm happy to sort of have in my collection. But I like that Oshinoko, like it didn't just sort of start conversations, it pretty much swiftly detonated them into something more. Like I like that it tackles parasocial relationships, the dark side of idol culture, entertainment industry exploitation, and it does it all while still being genuinely entertaining, which I think's probably a hard thing to juggle and execute the way it did. Like the opening song Idol by Yoasobi became a global phenomenon, like charted worldwide. 649 million plays on YouTube alone as of this morning when I triple checked. It might be over 650 now. Who the heck knows? Because I jammed it a few times. And it's also spawned thousands of covers out there. So this show made people who don't really watch anime start watching anime. Oni, did you see much discourse online regarding Oshinoko before you started watching? And also, did you manage to go into it unspoiled?
Yeah, so I went into the first episode completely blind. I didn't watch trailers. I saw a poster and that was it. Like I saw like the main poster for it, which was I Hoshino. And that was like all I had seen. I was like, oh, cool. Like I kind of was like hesitant, like it looks like an idol anime. I don't really watch those. But then I put it on and it was like not that at all. So I had nothing spoiled. I watched through the first two seasons completely unspoiled, then went and finished the manga before I could be spoiled. And that was kind of like my first exposure to it. Was I think in like 3 weeks I finished the story. So
God, that's so good. I'm so jealous, but I'm also proud of the internet and the community for not spoiling such a big first episode what the hell moment, because I remember watching it for the first time in 2023 and getting to that an hour and 8-minute-ish runtime period in the episode and just the jaw dropping, the jaw hitting the floor, smashing through my ground, and then sort of going into sort of the dirt and the grass below, because it was so unexpected and so shocking. Like I remember after the credits rolled, I just sat there for a few minutes and go, okay, I thought I knew what this series was going to be. And then you did that to me. I have no idea what's to come, but I am so here for it. And it just wrecked me. It really, really wrecked me, but it is so good. And I'm excited to sort of talk through some of those big moments in this podcast here today. But as far as where you can watch it and that reception, like I touched on, High Dive in most regions, depending on where you are around the globe. Crunchyroll does have access to season 3. And I think season 1 and maybe season 2 now have just dropped on Netflix, depending on your region as well. So it is becoming a little bit more accessible around the traps, which is good because I feel more platforms that can get access to a fantastic IP, the better. It currently sits at an 8.54 on my anime list for season 1, which I think, is a hefty number. Even season 2, it's at 8.53, which is huge. So a lot of positive press when it comes to the rankings of Oshinoko for these first 2 seasons on my anime list. We know that anime fans can be very fickle and very particular. So seeing back-to-back seasons score above 8.5 is pretty unheard of. And even on IMDb, we're talking the first episode alone here. IMDb ranked episode 1 of Oshinoko as a 9.2, which is also insanely high. So it's sitting already in the top 100 anime of all time within weeks of airing for that first season and that second season. So a lot of critical acclaim across multiple platforms for Oshinoko, and I think that's deserved. Do you feel that score is right based on that first episode? And if you wanted to expand and sort of look at it more beyond that for season 1 or season 2, or do you feel it's a little overhyped on it?
No, I think it's pretty on key with like what I kind of would sit it at. It's definitely like that sort of like 8.59, like the really great sort of section of anime that not very often we get to enjoy, but it's definitely high up, I think.
Yeah, it's in some very rare air, and I'd score it like, maybe I do have ruby colored glasses, pun partially intended there, but I score this series very highly personally. Like it's both seasons for me. I'd put in that 9 to 9.5 category, just because I just remember the emotional impact it had on me that first season, especially that first episode and that moment near the back end of episode 1 where I'm just like, whoa, nothing is doing what this is doing right now, and I'm here for it. Like I binged the manga very, very quickly once sort of that became available, and I'm happy with where the story's gone. Not going to spoil anything in that regard, but it is quite the phenomenon out there, Oni. Now let's start talking about that roller coaster of a first episode, which is titled Mother and Children. We'll sort of take it back to our first experiences with this episode again. So, we'll talk about how we went into episode 1. Like, I first heard about this anime just through, general internet chatter, looking at my anime list, upcoming seasonal content. I enjoyed the trailer. I was starting to chew through most of the content on High Dive available at the time. And I remember jumping into that first episode and just being like, wow, this is great. This is fantastic. Give me more of this, please. But when you first saw the poster, the trailer, the premise, What were those initial sort of, shoot from the hip vibes that you were sort of emitting when you watched it? Like, were you, man, I got to get into this immediately? Were you on the fence? What was that early feeling? Because, key art can be very deceptive. Trailers often show the best parts and can sort of hide the filler or, the dull moments in anime. But I feel from a personal standpoint, when I saw that trailer, I'm like, okay, this could be a nice, wholesome show about aspiring entertainers, good vibes. With the star eyes that she has, I'm like, she's a cute lead that you can get behind and root for. And the songs are a bit of a bop, so I was excited about. What was your vibes? Were you excited? Were you skeptical? Or did you miss all that and just go in blind based off those Discord recommendations back in the day?
Yeah, so basically, as I said, most of the anime I talk about, a lot of it is recommended from Sakura Society or from Brendan directly. I know you've shouted so many good anime over the years. We've known each other.
Thank you.
So it was really like, I didn't look too much into it when I was told you should watch Oshinoko. And I was like, okay, like I'll have a look and I'll put it on. And, I did I think I did a Google to see where I could watch it. I didn't even read the blurb or nothing. I just was like, oh, cool, I can watch it on Crunchy. I can watch it on High Dive. And then I want to put it on, and I went into that first episode with seeing the poster when you Google it, which is just the poster of I. And then I had no expectations besides, I think at the start I was like, oh, it's like an idol anime. Like, I'll give it a go because it's a recommendation, and everything that I get recommended from you guys is just always great. So I didn't really have too much expectation for the show to begin with. Besides obviously that early sort of positive light that it's being recommended to me.
That's so good. And I think that's so rare in today's society. Like you mentioned, social media can spoil or showcase everything even when you don't want it to. So the fact that you went in fully blind to what this world is, not even seeing a trailer, just going off that word of mouth and that recommendation would have just been such a refreshing and an exciting experience. And I cannot sort of get more jealous of you for that, I think, because, I'm often just inundated with people reaching out for this or that, or seeing things on social media and the internet, or just my own curiosity. Like, my brain works, and I'm like, no, I must know as much as I can about everything every time. So I'll constantly hunt down the trailers, hunt down key visuals and things. I'll avoid spoilers as best I can, but yeah, I like to know what I'm getting into more than anything. So just going off of a recommendation and going in with a full heart but eyes closed is so good. I wanted to know, at what point did you decide you were in? Because I don't think you were out off this anime, because you mentioned, you've watched season 1 and 2 now, so you're up to date, minus the last couple of episodes of season 3. But what was the moment for you in this first episode that you decided, God damn, this is fantastic, I'm going to keep rolling, I cannot get enough?
So yeah, with this one, there was like a few moments where I was like, I could see myself, watching a few episodes of it. I didn't know whether I would like sit through the entire thing straight away. But I think like the specific moment that I was like, oh shit, like this is something I have to stick with, was definitely, that hour and 8-minute time mark where, it's that very heartfelt and intensely sad moment where you see I sort of dying, and she's realizing that she did love these kids, and that it wasn't just that fake love that she had for fans, that the lie, that was always like something big with her. And I was like, man, that's so nuanced and different. And the characters are so well built for that, I think, as well. So I was like, man, yeah, there's something there, something in the writing there that I really want to keep watching or keep exploring.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, it really took me by surprise. Like, I remember jumping into that first episode and not actually paying attention that it was like a 90-minute episode. I just hit play, and I remember maybe getting about 45 or so minutes in. I'm like, I'm starting to really vibe with it and enjoy it, but I'm like, hang on, this is still episode 1. What is happening? I
Yeah,
pause. I'm like,
still-
oh, yeah, we're at 45 minutes and it's halfway. Like, what? What is still to come? So it just very subconsciously just grabbed me and sort of pulled me in without me even realizing, because yeah, I'm enjoying the characters, I'm enjoying this world, I'm enjoying the stakes that are getting set. And yeah, I is very lovable as sort of the MC, or so we are led to believe, and Goro as this bumbling, trying to be a good dude doctor that unintentionally can be a little creepy and weird at times. He's a good guy to sort of root for as well. And some of the other characters like Serena, you can't help but fall in love with that girl very early on when you meet her, because she's this terminally ill child that's 12 years old, that's in hospital, and you want to see her succeed as well. So there's just a lot of great diverse characters that just you cheer for right from the get-go, and you sort of are just sort of pulled along with them as this sort of story unpacks over that 82 or so minutes. And yeah, I was just in, because yeah, it took me 45 minutes to check that timestamp, and I couldn't believe how much story was packed in not only that first half of the episode, but then the back half. And like you said, that moment, which I'm excited, well, I don't know if excited is the right word to use in reference to that scene. But yeah, I'm not even looking forward to. It's a great scene, and I'm looking forward to talking with you about this great, heavy, emotional scene, because yeah, I did not expect it. Let's shift into story and world building. As far as that world setup and the setting overview, we're in modern Japan, but specifically focusing on the very dark side of the idol/entertainment industry. How did you find, Oni, how well the show established just how toxic and horrible this world is in this first episode?
Yeah, I think it was definitely such like a focal point of the episode, like to the point where it's something that kind of like lingers in the story even after the first episode. I think it's so important, especially like we open with Bikamachi and their performance, and it focuses so heavily on that for the first few, first like minute or so before we swap to Dr. Goro. And that was really cool to kind of have something highlight something but also criticize it, which was really cool. Like they make this performance look so intense and beautiful and like exciting for the fans, but at the same time throughout the episode you realize, oh, like no, there is like so much that they do, that like the fact that she has to hide that she's a mom, she has to like go in, she's not making any money because the agency's not making money, and then it's all like, oh, like this is like really heavy. So it's really cool to see them at the same time as showing how beautiful it can be, they're showing how dangerous it is as well.
I agree, and I enjoy that. Yeah, this show doesn't just sort of tell us how messed up this industry is, it shows us in the most devastating ways possible throughout this first episode. And there's just this sense of realness, and I'm going to sort of say maybe adjacent relatability. You and I were in the content creation space. Yes, we're not famous Japanese idols. We can't hold a glow stick to Ai and Bikamachi or anything like that. But like, we live in a world where these things are in our orbit, and these are things that we deal with in varying degrees as well. So there is this weird understanding that I have watching this anime, because I've been in and around podcasting now for a decade, which is crazy to say out loud, and I've seen the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the very bad. And so it does have this eerie familiarity for me, and I think it's done in such a way that's relatable, or that you can empathize and understand what's happening here. And I really appreciate the social commentary that is on display, the way that the show sort of exposes, like you mentioned, Oni, how idols are dehumanized, they're forced to hide their real lives and face massive backlash just for being human people, like for having relationships, having kids, existing outside their brand, in parentheses. Like it's very brutal and way too real, and you can't help but feel for these characters. Like I can't even be a mother publicly without risking her entire career, That's not just fiction, that's commentary on like real world industry toxicity. And yeah, it really, really hit for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing with the like world building and the setup of everything is like in that first episode, I think it's in the first like 20, 40 minutes, you hear like 3 or 4 people. I didn't notice it the first time I watched through it, but the second time I watched, so you hear like 3 or 4 people talk about like superstition and reincarnation. Like as Serena mentions it once, there's 2 blokes sitting in the waiting room of the hospital who are watching the news and mention it as well. And like it doesn't ever click for me until the second watch through that I'm like, oh, they're like really laying that in for you to pick up on. It was cool.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. It went over my head on my first watch in 2023, but rewatching this week, I was like Leonardo DiCaprio on the couch going, hey, like I got it. And I saw these little breadcrumbs getting sort of planted for us to follow. And I like how this anime establishes its rules and its logic. Like obviously, like you just said, Oni, that the elephant in the room is reincarnation. The show basically says, yep, reincarnation is a real thing, deal with it and moves on. And I feel that worked for me. Did it work for you, or was it too weird and I guess too abrupt because it happens very, very suddenly?
No, I think it like, I think with what they kind of established the rules to be of the reincarnation sort of like the reincarnation mechanic that they have going on, and they keep it consistent for both of the twins. So it's not like one is doing one thing and one is doing the other. Both Ruby and Aqua, when they're reincarnated, both have the same sort of like rules that they abide by as far as like the mechanics of reincarnation goes, which really helps to kind of like ground it and make it sort of like consistent.
I completely agree with you, man. I think that's a perfect way to sort of, summarize that reincarnation piece. We sort of mentioned at a high level regarding genre identification and tone. Like we sort of set the table earlier that Oshinoko, it is very much a genre blender of an anime. Like we've got slice of life, we've got psychological thriller, murder mystery, industry drama, comedy, and those supernatural elements. I feel that it juggles all of those subgenres perfectly, and it doesn't ever get too much for me. And even when it comes to the tonal whiplash that we get throughout this first episode, where we've got heartwarming idol moments and cute family moments, and then complete darkness and death and heartbreaking, I feel that it is very effective. Like it's not to the point of being too jarring for me. And the pacing, I feel the pacing was just right as well. What's your thoughts when it comes to the tone and the pacing?
Yeah, I think they set the tone very early on. And it definitely follows like a very natural sort of like progression of tone as well, where you go from something that's like, okay, very sort of like slice of lifey into something a little bit like comedic, especially at this like both. If I separate the first episode into 2 parts, it follows the same sort of like tonal progression of it being like a little bit funny, a little bit slice of life, and then sort of like being very sort of like slice of life and then being very dark and dramatic. So like for the first part, you have it opens with Goro watching the Bikamachi concert in a patient's room, and his nurse is like, your obsession with 16-year-old idols is horrendous, like stop. And then, that's such a funny like little bit of banter between him and the nurse. And then it does go into like a very sentimental slice of life sort of thing, with like Serena, and then having to adjust to having Ai come in and she's pregnant with the twins. And then obviously the drama at the end where Goro encounters Ai's stalker and is ultimately killed. Then the second part of the episode, after sort of Goro, or now Aqua, is reincarnated, you start with all these funny slice of life baby moments, like there's Ruby like having flame wars on Twitter, and like just the I think one of my favorite funny moments is definitely the scene where Ruby and Aqua pretend to be like the gods, and she's like, I am Amaterasu. Like, I'm like, oh, that's so funny. That's such a like odd, like funny moment to have in such a serious show. And then obviously we end with that not end, but we get towards the end with that very dark tonal murder of Ai Hoshino, and was like, for like, it's such a similar progression on both halves of the episode, I think, in terms of tone.
Yeah, and I feel that episodic progression, it just is really masterfully done. Like you touched on there, Oni, like it builds perfectly. We go from, the fun doctor who watches Idol to everything else, and everything else that you weren't even expected on top of that. Like, I feel it really earned that escalation, and I enjoyed as well. Every time I felt I knew where this story was going, it pivots. And my jaw was constantly like, what the hell? It was on the ground. I was in shock, trying to scramble and understand what's going to happen next, or predict what was going to happen next. And for the most part, I failed, because there were so many twists and turns. But I like, by the end of episode 1, it does feel like this world is fully realized. It's definitely not underdeveloped. We get an understanding of what this world is, who the main players are, the big questions that are lingering were earned throughout that 82-ish minute runtime. And then sort of seeing the behind the scenes idol industry stuff, it felt very, very authentic. Like I mentioned earlier, being in that content creation space, we get a sprinkle in comparison to what we see here in Oshinoko, but it feels very authentic, very legitimate, because we see this type of discourse online all the time, whether it be for local small-time creators or global celebrities. Everyone is getting scrutinized. Everyone has their opinion, whether it's right, wrong, deserve it or not. Everyone has their opinion for the most part on these people in the public eye. So I enjoyed the storytelling, the world building. I found it was a very good balance. We do get a lot of exposition from Goro's narration in the first, throughout this first episode, but it never felt like a textbook to me, Oni. Like, I think the storytelling balancing was done really, really well, where there was some hand holding, but also some natural just progression that we learned ourselves throughout this, nearly 90 minutes worth of first episode greatness.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think the pacing wise, it was just like a kind of ideal where you have just enough told to you and then just enough shown to you where you're not getting too much of either. And it kind of like balances out to be like a very comfortable hour and 20 minutes to just sit down and watch.
Very comfortable is a perfect way to describe it. There is certainly some moments that make you feel very uncomfortable while you're there sitting comfortably on your couch or your bed or your chair or the floor or wherever you're consuming this. But it is a really great, clean, cohesive story that's told in this first episode that, it just had me wanting more again doing the rewatch this week. Let's talk characters and chemistry. We'll talk main protagonist, side characters if you wanted to mention them as well. But I guess first and foremost, we got to talk about Goro/Aqua, the rural doctor who becomes an idol-obsessed fan, dies, gets reborn, and retains all his memories. That is a lot to process, Oni, but do you feel it works?
Yeah, I think it does. Like, I think the fact that the personality is pretty much the same from reincarnation to being, Goro, it really helps kind of like make him feel like who he was before the reincarnation, because he follows the same beats. He's, he was a 30-year-old doctor, and he had obviously lived his life, and now he's a baby again, and he's like still following the same like morals and ideals that a 30-year-old doctor would have had, which really makes him quite, besides the occasional like joke or two, is like definitely fleshes him out as a character, and it's not very confusing at all.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, we get the mentality of an adult man in a baby's body. Like, that is a little uncomfortable when you think about it too hard, but I think overall it's done in a really good way, and it leads to some good comedic moments, but also some cool moments from like no one else in the world knows that this is an adult man and a young adult, or I guess a teenager in Ruby's case with Serena, but it allows us to, I guess, play along with Ruby as well as Aqua, and how the rest of the world just unassumes, because they just think, baby, toddler, young children, they know nothing. I still know little in my 30s, and yet these kids have got their all their memories and life experience up to that date of their passing now embedded in these tiny little bodies. So it leads to some good moments. As far as Ai Hoshino, let's talk about her, Oni. Like, she's the heart of this entire first episode. I feel her character really checked a lot of boxes for me. I couldn't help myself but to root for her and cheer for her. And I just assumed that this story was going to be about the rise of Ai Hoshino as the next giant Japanese idol. But goddamn, how wrong was I? But yeah, did she work as a character for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like when we're first introduced to her, like you can kind of see that there is a difference between like her idol self from the start, where she's, you know, with Bikamachi, she's like smiling, dancing, doing her thing. And then when she's introduced to Goro, she still has that like cheeky sort of like playful charm to her, which I think was really well done. But there's also like that really like, I don't know, there's like an undertone to her character that's a bit sad as well.
Mhm.
Like she like it's explored that she struggles a lot with like identifying what's a lie in her life and what's not. Like, what is she faking and what isn't she faking? Because her love for her fans, like she doesn't love these people, like not proper love. And then she kind of, you know, there is that confusing moment for her of like, well, do I love anything at all? Which is, or is it all just, you know, fake? Which is such a nuanced sort of take, I think.
And it's so heartbreaking as a viewer watching this poor girl who's 16 years old, the world potentially at her feet as far as the next breakout idol star, becoming pregnant. But she is literally the embodiment of that saying, fake it till you make it, where her whole life on surface level, at least to like none of the fans, none of the people she's dealing with, like it's a lie. Like she is just living this lie day in and day out, and sort of seeing her finally understand what love is in her last moments is so goddamn crushing and soul destroying. And, you know, we'll talk about that in sort of the standout moments section soon. But even though we only get 90-ish minutes with her, they give us a full start, beginning, end conclusion to this story. And yeah, I found myself rooting for her very early on because, like you said, Oni, like that cheekiness, whether it be her as a real person or her as part of the idol persona that she portrays to a lot of people, like it's very endearing, and you can't help but feel, you know, good vibes towards her and want to see her succeed. From the other sort of main characters or the side characters, the secondary, however we want to sort of classify them as, from this first episode, obviously we get a lot of time with Ruby / Serena, the terminally ill patient turned twin sister to Aqua. It is quite the wild dynamic. And I mentioned earlier, but yeah, poor Serena, she dies at 12 years old. She was terminally ill. Goro is there with her right till her last moments. And they have some really, really heartfelt moments together in this first episode. And something that I like in this first episode is that Serena, now Ruby, does not know or cannot put the pieces together that Aqua was once Goro, because she loves Goro, and she's like, you know, like when he's trying to pump her up and say, you know, you'll be an idol sometime, Serena, it's all good, like I'll be your number one fan. And then she's like, you know, marry me, Goro. And he's like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah, you're like, that scene is like, oh, like marry me, doctor. And he's like, no, like I'll be a social pariah. Don't do that. Like I won't. People will talk. You know, that's not. I can't do it. It's such a funny moment.
After he sort of delivers that line, you go, good on you, sir. Like, I'm happy that we haven't lent into the creepiness. But then the creepiness sneaks its way in because he's like, but when you're 16, you know, we can have a discussion about it. I'm like, what? What? I beg your pardon, sir.
Real like neck snap moment, being like, oh, cool, like he's not a creep. And then you're like, oh, yeah, nah, actually, come back, hang on.
Yeah. Earned himself some good karma points from me. And then I immediately ripped them away when he mentioned that when you turn 16, you know, maybe there's a chance there. And you're like, oh, come on, buddy. That was not needed. But overall, I feel she's a good, strong character. She doesn't get a ton of airtime in comparison to Aqua in this first episode, when we do sort of see the kids be born and sort of watch them jump throughout their early sort of childhood years. Another character I thought was a bit of a standout in this first episode is Miyako,
I
the
have that down
manager's
as well.
wife, who suddenly becomes a mum, in parentheses, to the twins. What do you feel about her?
Yeah, I think like Miyako, like she plays the twins' fake mom whenever they have to be out and about or doing things, and you can kind of see. I think she's so standout because she grows so much from that first episode. Like she obviously you sort of see her at the start of the episode, and she's kind of like okay with it because it's what her husband kind of like expects her to do. Is just like look after the people that I manage as baby, right? But then she kind of like as it goes on, she kind of has this snap like, oh, I should be looking after my own kids. Why am I looking after someone else's kids? Like, this is ridiculous. And then obviously there is that sort of like prank moment from the twins that kind of like snaps her back, and she ends up being like a very loving character to them towards the end anyway, just out of her own growth as a character, despite the funny prank moment of them being like the possessed by God sort of moment that they do.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's a few minutes leading up to that where you're seeing Miyako start to almost transition to her villain arc, where she's like, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm going to let the world be known, like let the world know that Ai Hoshino is the mother of these twins. She's had these twins at 16 years old, and her career is going to be ruined, and I won't have to deal with these damn kids anymore. But yeah, then we get the God moment in parentheses, and it completely changes her tune. And from there, she tries her very best to raise these kids to the best of her abilities, because Ai is a very absent mother in these few years, due mainly to the career and trying to, wanting to become something for herself, but also make sure that her kids can have the best life possible. But she's very lackadaisical with it, where she'll just be sitting there. She's not constantly getting the kids' names mixed up, which is something that kind of breaks your heart a little bit, where she's calling Aqua Ruby all the time and things like that. And she's like, oh, I'm horrible with people's names, but I'm good with people's names that are in positions of power, right, Mr. President of the agency, Mr. Saito? She gets his name wrong, but like she remembers it roughly. But yeah, that gets a little tough. But seeing Miyako come in and step up and just raise these kids without any say, I guess, in the matter is nice to see. And, they do always say that it takes a village to, raise a child, and you sort of see it happen here. And I think that leads really well into those character dynamics and relationships getting established with sort of our main and supporting cast here. Oni, I think the Goro Ai parasocial relationship turning into a mother-son bond is fascinating and also weird, but fascinating and weird in probably the best way. Like, he's supporting her with the purest heart after all. Like, there's a moment that I chuckled in again watching that first episode where I was like, it's time for feeding, and Aqua is just resistant to breastfeeding because he
that's it.
In his mind, he's still a 30-something gynecologist. He doesn't want to be breastfed by a 16-year-old idol that he was a massive super fan of. So I feel that bond, it's done effectively and avoids the creepiness that a lot of people out there in the anime sphere could, very easily jump on and pile onto this anime about.
Yeah, definitely. I think that relationship is really like well kind of like developed in this first episode, and it gives Aqua's character a lot of reason moving forward as well, I think.
I agree. And I like that, yes, even though it's gone adult to son, even though he is the son, you can see in this relationship and him thinking about the long game and protecting his mother, he is still the adult very much in this relationship, even though he is a toddler and his mother's a 16, 17, 18-year-old as sort of the years jump here. He is still very much the guiding light and the driving force as far as what's best for her. And you see him on the phone with like talent scouts and directors and things trying to get her into roles, even though he's a little toddler and a young child that somehow has a phone now. But you know what? You just suspend that disbelief and just roll with it. I really enjoyed the twin dynamic with Aqua and Ruby. Like, I think we've all known or grown up with twins, whether it be family members or people at school, and you can sort of see that opposite dynamic sometimes with the twins, and it's played out really well with Aqua and Ruby in this first episode. And it's kind of cool knowing that they're both reincarnated, I won't say adults again, because yeah, Goro 30 something, Sarina, she was 12, so you know their brains are a lot more well formed than they are as babies. But did you have any issues processing that during that first episode, seeing these adults return to this earth as toddlers?
No, I don't think so. Like, I think any of the, as you said, any of the like creepy moments that can get dogpiled definitely were avoided. They, you know, they had the chance to do them, and they were like, no, we're gonna like have a bit more tact and kind of Aqua's gonna, or Goro is gonna have a bit more tact and not want to do those creepy things.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to like who had the most or least agency in this episode, I've got to sort of throw I at this one as far as my response, because she's simultaneously like the most important person in the story and the most controlled by everyone around her. And I really felt, at least me personally as a viewer and a reader, that that contradiction landed for me, you know, very, very, very well.
Yeah, definitely. I think as far as like a character goes, she had the most agency in the story because it's her life that's pushing the story forward. You know, it's her being pregnant that pushes the story forward, her dying that pushes the story forward. And then definitely I think she also has the least agency as an individual because everything in her life is structured for her. She has to do certain things. She has to look a certain way, has to perform a certain way. So she definitely has the least sort of like autonomy of her own life. But I also think like if we're talking a character or characters that don't have any agency in the story, the rest of Bikamachi don't have like nothing happens with them.
No.
You just kind of there's like 5 other girls that nothing happens with, and you're like, okay, like I get this is their story, but I don't even think we get names.
No, not in this first episode. I think we maybe get like some quick title cards for each of them as we see them on stage performing once. But yeah, there's no vocalization of this is blah or this is blah. It's very much I as the front and center of Bikamachi. And you can even see like the other band members, they're all pretty well dressed the same, yet I is in a bit more of a more, you know, an outfit that stands out and makes her really appear as the leader and the front and center of that band, while the rest of them are just there making up the numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as best chemistry between the characters, I feel just every scene with I and the twins is very adorable. And then you sort of remember the context and it really starts to hurt.
Yeah, definitely. I find that the chemistry between Ruby and Aqua to me kind of like hedges above their chemistry with their mum a bit. Because you have Goro knowing who Ruby is. As like he knows that that's Serena, whereas Ruby has no idea. So she's kind of just like, oh, this is like other chump that like I have to deal with. And I think like there's a really good sort of like back and forth of like sibling rivalry almost between them in most moments.
I agree. And you sort of see that, like, you know, avoiding spoilers, but you see that play out in future episodes and future seasons as far as the career paths they're going on and whose name shines the brightest up there in the big lights. And yeah, I think this first episode really establishes that sibling rivalry very well. As far as most compelling character introduction, I think it goes without fail. Like her introduction, that gap between a public idol persona and her private vulnerable self, like just chef's kiss for me.
Yeah, I don't think it can be really said to be anyone else, you know. She's both times she's introduced, because we're introduced to I the idol at the very start when she's singing her song, and then you have I the pregnant woman who comes to the hospital to meet Goro, and you like learn a lot more about her then. But yeah, both times she's very very front and center. The way she's animated and the way that she's like especially the way that she's like voiced in both renditions is something that is very sort of like engaging and very easy to be compelled by in a character to enjoy.
Yeah, she drew me in, like I said, from those first scenes with her. I was there with like glow sticks on the couch doing dance moves like the twins did at that performance. Like I quickly became a big fan of I, and yeah, really enjoyed seeing her develop and grow in this first episode. On the opposite end of that, any characters that sort of fell flat or felt unnecessary, I wouldn't say unnecessary, but I feel the president of the agency, Mr. Saito, feels very slimy, but also very underwritten. They don't really
Yeah.
give us much to sort of work on with him. We just get introduced that he is the head of this agency, and we find out, I guess, through scenes with Miyako later when she's crunching all the numbers, that we find out that, yeah, they're running on paper thin margins, money's not coming in. Is that Mr. Saito's fault? Who knows? Who doesn't know? But I feel we get introduced to him, and we're meant to sort of feel a certain way from those scenes as far as this guy kind of sucks.
Yeah, I don't get like a gross vibe as much as I just get an incompetent vibe. Like he doesn't seem sleazy to me as much as he just seems like he's not very good at his job.
Yeah, I agree. I don't get any like awkward, pervy preying on his talent vibes. It's more the slimy for me comes from, what is his business mentality and his business etiquette? Like, is he doing some dodgies in the back end here? Because I've met a lot of managers and sort of figureheads in this content creation space that I feel are very much Mr. Saito, and it gave me a lot of flashbacks.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's move into our favorite or standout moments within this first episode. As far as funniest moment, we'll sort of lead off with that. I feel Baby Aqua's internal monologue for me during that first doctor's visit just had me cackling because, we get the, I'm a doctor myself, with his mindset and his mentality while he's getting examined as an infant is just peak comedy for me. What about you?
Yeah, so I've I think I have two that kind of like I wrestle with being my favorite like laugh in the show, and I think it's the first one is definitely the nurse scolding Goro for being into idols. I think like every time I watch that, I think like it's such a funny dry humor that I personally like really bend to. But then also, as I said, I think there's so many countless Aqua Ruby moments when they're babies that just crack me up. One of which is Ruby like arguing with people on Twitter who are like trying to trash I, and she's like, no, I is the best, like arguing back. And it's just like, man, that's so funny to see this like little kid like in a flame war on Twitter. It's too good. And obviously, as I've already mentioned, the I am a Matarasu scene is just like too funny. Like it's such like a outlandish moment in such a serious sort of like moment that I'm like, man, that's good. Like it also doesn't break the tension either.
Yeah, for sure. Another one that made me cackle on that rewatch was where we see, young infant Aqua again, and he's silently judging everyone at the agency meeting. And he's just thinking, these people are all idiots with that completely blank baby face. Like that also got me giggling too. It made me think of, remember the movies from like the 80s and early 90s? Remember like Look Who's Talking? Remember those movies?
Yeah, I love that one.
It made me think of like, is it like Danny DeVito? And like, I think John Travolta was like the dad, but I think Danny DeVito like maybe voiced one of the kids. Could be way off, but yeah, got me good. Got me good. Oni, what would you say is the most confusing or like biggest what just happened moment for you in this first episode?
I think the big moments are the most like what just happened, like what's going on moments. Definitely when Aqua dies and is reincarnated, the first time watching through, I was like, oh, whoa, like, okay, that's where we're going. What just like, how did that just happen? What's going on? And then I also think there's a really big stinger in the scenes before the Amaterasu moment where it's Miyako just like snapping and just like going into that jealous rage out of nowhere. I was like, whoa, like when did that come up? Like it's they're the two moments that I kind of think back on. I'm like, wow, like when I first watched it, I was like, how did we get to there?
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. I think both the respective reincarnations for me were probably the two that got me. Like we see Goro's death which was very sudden and very unexpected. And then that immediate reincarnation as Ai's baby. Like the show just goes for it with zero explanation of the mechanics. Like, yeah, we did mention that there was some breadcrumbs throughout leading up to that moment. But like for that first time viewing, just seeing it just happen within the span of a few minutes, I was like, whoa, okay, that's what's happening. All right, let's roll. But then finding out that then Serena is also reincarnated as Ruby, like that reveal, it comes so casually, but it is a huge, huge moment for me. And both of them, I was just like, oh, I need a second to process and understand what's happening here. Oni, I think when we shift that tone from most confusing to most emotional beat or moment, like I feel we have to talk about, that scene. We all, anyone that's watched it knows the one. Anyone that's sort of read the rumors or the spoilers out there knows what we're talking about. And that happens an hour and 8 minutes in to this first episode. It's a very brutal stabbing scene, Ai's death. And off the back of seeing this murder play out and the struggle, the way she's using her last moments to tell the twins that she loves them, like for the first time in her life, genuinely meaning that love, like it absolutely destroyed me, because we sort of get that final I love you. We see the stars come back to her eyes because she finally means that love, in conjunction with the mum is on the floor now. She's heavily bleeding out and she's, how are you doing? Are you okay? Do you need a hug? Like, this wrecked me. And it's not often I will shed tears in a first episode because that emotional attachment isn't usually there after 20 odd minutes. But the fact that this was an 82-minute banger and we had grown attached to these characters up until this hour and 8-minute point, I was sobbing hysterically on the first watch. And even though I knew it was coming on this rewatch for the podcast, it got me just as hard. So that emotional beat is the biggest by far, not only in this anime, but also one of the biggest emotional moments and beats that I can remember in just about any anime I've watched.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's always been my pick for most emotional scene in this episode was not just the death itself, but sort of after the events that will obviously leave us succumbing to those wounds. Just the talking to Ruby and Aqua, and as you said, just coming to a realization of oh no, this is what actual love is. This isn't the love that I fake for people. This is real. That one, yeah, that's very sort of. I'm not a crier. I don't cry, but it definitely has the tight chest and the tight chest feeling of needing to cry.
And I think that tight chest feeling, that sense of dread, happens before that action plays out, because we see in those moments leading up to the very brutal and horrific stabbing, this stalker attack where we hear the doorbell, checking that peephole, and then that moment of recognition that Ai sort of has, and she sort of realizes who it is and what potentially could come. It really sets us up. And even though it does, you still think someone's going to come save the day. Someone's going to scare this guy away at the last minute. Nothing bad's going to happen to this young mum and her children. And yet none of the good happens there. There is no one that comes to save this woman. And it just plays out in front of us. And they do not shy away on the brutality in this moment. And it wrecks many a person, and it wrecks me in a very, 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 very big way. And yeah, it's one of the strongest scenes or moments in an anime that I've watched in years. And there's not many out there that can top it, I think, as far as emotional impact and, jaw drop, what the heck is going on.
Yeah, I totally agree.
As far as a scene that hooked you or maybe potentially lost you, if you wanted to sort of spin it from that other lens, what was, as you were watching this first episode, Oni, what was the scene or the pivotal moment that just grabbed you and you were like, nah, I'm in, this is the anime for me?
Yeah, so it's definitely the scene we just discussed is my reason for sitting and binging the whole season in one sitting. I think I would have watched it all if I had just watched up until watched up until that point, and that scene hadn't been in there, I still would have gone back and I would have watched, would have watched the season over a period of time. But because of how that scene played out, I was that hooked that I was like, that's it. I'm sitting and I'm watching for the next however long it will take me to finish this season.
It is so powerful and so impactful, and I feel it's going to be the hook that the vast majority of people out there that have watched Oshinoko, and maybe the people that are going to watch after listening to this podcast, will probably say as the moment that this anime grabbed them. For me, I'll admit I was very in on this very early on. I really enjoyed the animation. I really enjoyed the characters, and I like seeing the vision of a quote unquote perfect idol turned on its head with this pregnancy of a 16-year-old starlet. Like, that really sort of made me take a step back and realize this isn't your usual idol anime. So I enjoyed this different interpretation, this different wrinkle on a genre that is very tried and true. So that really grabbed me. And I feel also I'm such a sucker for a show that is bold and kills off a major character early. And yet we touched on but I think seeing Goro killed off after about 20 odd minutes where he's pushed off that cliff by the stalker, that really got me as well, where I'm like, whoa, I thought we were going to see this bumbling doctor's life play out over this first season, yet they kill him off, obviously swiftly reincarnate him as well, but just seeing him killed off so quickly and so abruptly really made me sort of stop and take notice and just jump in and let this hook itself into me as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's there are several great hooks in the one episode that would have kept me coming back regardless. But it is that final scene that you really kind of need to keep watching for.
Is there any other impactful or standout moments or scenes that you wanted to shout out from this first episode as well before we maybe jump into animation, sound, and style?
So I don't think it's really like an impactful one, but I think it's one that I picked up this time watching through, that if you are a watcher of Oshinoko and you have watched further on, when Goro dies, there's like a flutter of crows. I didn't pick that up the first time. I was just like, oh, like, cool. It's like a transition. A bit more than that. That's cool.
Yeah, neither did I. And on this rewatch, I thought, holy shit, why is there so many crows, camped in this area out in the boonies of an evening? But then that penny drop where I'm like, oh, I get what that's in reference to. I understand now because it's explained down the line. And
the fact that it's so early on as well, to be like dropping that sort of like hint or Easter egg to something further on, it's like, wow, like that's so good.
Yeah, I agree. I think another moment that stood out for me, that opening Bikamachi performance, where we see Ai's perfect idol persona before the show start to peel back those layers. Like, we do get that great contrast of clean cut, perfect life, perfect girl, loves the world, loves the fans, love everybody, to the complete inverse of that, even though she is still, a fantastic human being. But yeah, she's struggling to feel anything for this world that she's trying to represent. I thought that was a really good moment. And then the other part was the star eyes symbolism. I think seeing those star eyes used to great effect in this first episode and then throughout in future seasons, where Ai's star eyes, they go dark when she's faking emotions, yet they light up again when she's genuinely feeling something. Again, chef's kiss for visual storytelling for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's such you see it happen later as well with the twins, but definitely with I think the way they did it in the first episode and then continue to use that as a bit of storytelling, it's just like really, really smart and really like unique, I think.
I think so too. Yeah, the character models themselves and then mixed with the star eyes, fantastic. And like you said, unique's a perfect word to describe that. So let's shift gears. Let's talk animation, sound, and style. As far as the animation quality, like Doga Kobo, a studio, I apologize at the time in 2023, I was not familiar with your game because it was phenomenal. And you guys and girls out there were putting in the work when it comes to this first season and this first episode specifically here. The character animation, especially Ai's facial expressions, stunning. the contrast between the bright, sparkly idol performances and then the darker, more grounded, dramatic scenes. Again, like hat tip, double thumbs up, standing applause, all that stuff. What's your thoughts as far as that animation quality? Like, I know it's only a newish anime, like it debuted a little under 3 years ago or so now. So I feel it holds up. It doesn't feel dated or cheap or less than in any way.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think like it feels as good as something from like Bibbidi or even, you know, other studios that do more of these like intense shows. But yeah, it's definitely, I think animation quality is like out of the park, both in like the beauty of the show and all the like everything that's meant to look beautiful or look exciting, looks vibrant, and it's great, and like nothing feels out of place. And also the darkness of the show, like all the sort of like both deaths are done so well and so dark that I think it really, to have those two in the same episode and have it make sense is not easy to do.
It's 100% correct with you there, Oni. Like, I feel this adaptation, it's damn near perfect. Like, Mengo Yokiyari's already stunning character work from the manga has very much been brought to life with so much care that the manga readers and anime onlys alike are both universally just eating it up on screen. And you see some moments in season 2 where the art style and the color palette changes completely during this onstage theater performance, that it will just blow your goddamn mind what Doga Kobo are able to sort of put onto screen with that. As far as the art style and that visual direction, I really like that the show uses visual metaphors very effectively. The stars, the shadows, the lighting changes, like you said. But those star eyes, I feel like they've quickly become very iconic in anime. Like, they're beautiful, but they're also like thematically loaded. And that just gets me. And there's so much intrigue and so much to talk about when it comes to those eyes, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the storytelling through that sort of like visual direction is so smart. Like being able to be like, here's something that the audience can look for, that is only perceivable by the audience. The rest of the people in the show don't pick it up. It's purely for us. And that's so cool. That's something that I like when shows do, is when they give something that's specifically for the audience. I know I'm not the biggest Demon Slayer fan, but they do it with their sword styles. Like in the show, that's not happening. That's all the visuals is for us, for our enjoyment or for our like understanding. And it's the same thing with the star eyes here. Other people don't see it, or the people in the show or the story don't see it. It's all done for us, which is so cool.
Yeah. It's just a good vessel to add more depth and layers to these characters. Just the simplicity of just a human's eyes. Like, there's so much storytelling and emotion you can get from people's eyes in general, but then having this sort of star eye stylistic change with our sort of lead Hoshino family here. Just, yeah, again, I love it. I was eating it up right from the get-go, and it is done not to a level of like bashing us over the head constantly with it. Like, they know when to use that to add and enhance and get the viewer to pop, and they also know when not to use that. So it's not oversaturated, I don't think, in any way.
No, not at all.
As far as the opening theme, Yoasobi's idol, like I mentioned sort of in the opening dialogue there, it is a phenomenon, but it is also a bop, and it is lyrically devastating once you understand what it's about. Like, the song reveals that tragic irony at the heart of idol culture. We've got a performer confessing her love for fans is a lie, yet this admission only deepens their obsession. She's never known real love, but must sell fake intimacy while maintaining perfection, secretly hoping her lies might someday become real. And even though, yes, I don't understand the Japanese dialogue and sort of that language just by the human ear, it's a bop in its own right, and it's a song that you can sort of headbang and toe tap along to, catchy as hell. Like, Yoasobi is one of my favorite Japanese artists out there, but then also reading that translation of the Japanese to the English lyrics, it just starts to hit so much more, and it pairs with this anime perfectly.
Yeah, I think it's so good when a song is if it's not made for the anime, it fits the anime perfectly. You know what I mean? It's so fantastic when it the music matches the story, and this is exactly what this does. Is because Oshinoko looks and appears to be this beautiful idol anime that is really fun and engaging, but is heavy and dark, and that's exactly what the song is. It's boppy, it's fun, you listen to it, and then you read the lyrics and you're like, oh, it's dark, it's like, it's intense, which is exactly the same as the show.
Yeah, it goes together hand in glove, this anime and this opening track. We don't actually get the opener in episode 1. It's a cold open, but we get Idol as the ending theme in episode 1 and then the opening from then on. But after that, episodes 2 through 11, we've got a song called Mephisto by Zuyuvachi. It's a nice song. I feel it's more somber and reflective in comparison to Idol, and I personally feel like it's a good cool down after the episode's intensity as far as Mephisto for the ending track. What do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately I find that one totally skippable, especially on a binge. Like it's a good song. It's it's not working its way onto any playlist, but it's a nice sound.
Yeah, I agree. Like Idol by Yoasobi's on many a playlist for me, but yeah, Mephisto by Zuyuvachi, not on a single one. So still a great song, but just can't really reach the highs of Idol. As far as the soundtrack effectiveness goes overall, the OST is done by Kenichiro Suhiro. I feel it is phenomenal. Like, it knows exactly when to be quiet, and it knows exactly when it needs to dial it up to hurt you even more.
Yeah, exactly. I think everything in the soundtrack kind of matches what we need at the time on screen. When things need to be intense and silent, all that sound is like really low. But then when things are like, even as it's going into like fun moments, the music changes and matches, and it's everything along the way matches to what we are watching as the audience, which is always kind of a great standout for a soundtrack, is when it fits.
Yeah, and it fits so well. And even just the bops we get from like Bikamachi, like they're catchy, they're very believable as far as songs that you could hear on the charts, whether it be in anime or in real life. And it just accompanies that overall sort of score very, very well. As far as voice acting goes, Oni, we touched on it on a very high level earlier, but what's some of your voice acting standouts that you wanted to shout out here?
Yeah, I definitely think Goro, because we don't get Aqua's voice actor until the very end. But Goro and Baby Aqua, who obviously is Goro's in a monologue a lot of the time, is such a good storyteller, I think, and just like the delivery of a lot of his lines. And then obviously the voice actor for I in both Japanese and English is so lovable and so like easy to sort of like follow along with and root for, and just like every deliverance of every line is like really solid and engaging, and it makes you want to sort of support her even further than what the animation does.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like, I really enjoy, if I've got to be honest though, like if we're going to look at the Japanese to the English, I think the Japanese voiceover performances, especially on this rewatch that we've done recently of the first 3 episodes, I feel they're more stronger than their English counterparts. Like, yeah, Donabella Litton, Jeremy G and co, I feel they do their best. And if that's the way you want to consume it, you're still going to have a good time. Like, they give 110% and can really flesh out these characters. But sort of seeing what like Rei Takahashi does as I, or, Yuri Igoma does as Aqua, they're the eyes and the aquas and the rubies, etc., for me, as far as my viewing experience. And maybe that was just because it was so impactful on that first watch. I'm having a really hard time sort of decoupling the Japanese voice acting and then implanting the English voice acting on this rewatch. Like, I want to rewatch and work my way through it again, but I'm curious if I'm going to shift the vocal track to Japanese moving forward after watching these first 3 episodes again in English. Like, it's fine and it's great, but I feel it's greater and better with the Japanese voice acting performances. That's just my opinion.
No, absolutely. I agree. I think definitely like the Japanese is the superior in this instance, but you're gonna have fun either way you consume it.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is a really strong vocal performance from either the Japanese team or the English team. You're going to really enjoy this content. You aren't at a disadvantage going either way here, but yeah, just from my memory and my recollection, the Japanese team just nail it, and yeah, that's my Oshinoko team. All right, Oni, let's shift into the final sort of slate of questions I've got that I'm going to sort of chuck into the section known as the verdict. The first one's a bit of a rhetorical question because I already know that you've watched all of season 1 and season 2, but thinking back to that first episode, watch that initial time, it certainly left you wanting more. Yeah, like you just wanted to sort of finish all 11 episodes in one hit.
Yeah, I did. I sat down. I was like, I wanted to watch more so bad. I think I stayed up most of the night watching it because I started it at night time after dinner, and then I don't think I went to bed until like 2 o'clock, and I I got very tired.
Yeah, it is definitely binge worthy. And that first episode, like it is designed to grab you and hook you hard right from the get-go. And if you have multiple episodes available, you're going to keep wanting to go on after just such a mic drop moment at the end of that first episode there. Oni, would you recommend this anime to anime beginners?
So this question I thought about a lot when I read it. I was like, oh, I don't think so. I think it's something that isn't like it's not entirely impossible to pick up. Like I think you'll definitely be able to pick it up and have a good time. But I think there are like tropes and there are like parts of the anime that I think you need to be watching anime to really appreciate and understand.
I agree with you. I feel it's a tough one to answer correctly. I don't think there's a right or a wrong. It's going to depend on this anime first timer and how much you know as far as their viewing habits. Because, yeah, reincarnation and some of those other tropes they throw at us in this 82 minutes might be a lot or a little bit too left of center for some potential viewers. It's very accessible in terms of storytelling. Like I said, it feels like a midday movie or an afternoon soap opera dialed up and then dialed up again and then dialed up again. And then emotionally, like very brutal, like we've touched on in this episode here. So I think it's going to be very much a case by case as far as people that are new to anime, but maybe you know that they are into dramas and suspense and plot twists and things. This could be something that could draw them in. But if they're not into stuff like that, then maybe don't recommend this as one of their first anime watches. Inverting that question though, Oni, as far as seasoned anime fans, would you recommend this anime to people that are well adversed with this ecosystem already?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sort of like back knowledge of anime really helps with a lot of the stuff in Oshinoko, like the tropes and the sort of like genres specifically. I think are appreciated more when you have some knowledge behind them.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to feel weirdly familiar if you've watched things that explore some of those tropes or sort of tackle some of these universes that you might have seen with other franchises. So yeah, I'm in lockstep with you there. Another question I've got for you: who is this show not for?
Might be a bit of a controversial one. This is not for the anime tourist. It's just not. I don't think people coming in and doing your one anime a month or one anime a season, of shonen sort of entertainment, which is great. If you love it, it's great. We're, fantastic. But I just don't think that's for you. I don't think this is for you.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you can't handle dark themes, industry exploitation, or emotional devastation, certainly give it a miss. Anime tourists, as Oni just mentioned, I completely agree. Give it a miss. If you do not vibe with the reincarnation premise, might be a little bit too weird for some, so probably give it a miss. And if you are not emotionally prepared maybe give it a miss, because it doesn't often get lighter after this first episode. Like, it does
No.
have some good moments, but there is some moments that will continue to break you throughout this season and future seasons. So, yeah, I feel those are the types of people that should not watch Oshinoko.
Yeah, definitely not for people who don't have a box of tissues.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, Oni, I want to shift now, and I want to ask you to give me your final rating of Oshinoko in whatever metric you determine. It can be out of 5, 10, 10,000, 10 million, can be nonsensical, can make complete sense, but I want you to give me your final rating and final thoughts on Oshinoko.
Yeah, so I think with everything that I only really sung its praises this whole episode, so it's definitely up there. I comfortably sit it at like an 8.5 on 9 idle light sticks out of 10.
Perfection. I'm happy I finished that sip just before you said that, because I nearly would have spat it all over my fantastic BP40 microphone from Audio Technica. If you're still on the fence, here is my one sentence pitch to hopefully try and convince you to watch it. Oshinoko is a psychological thriller disguised as an idol anime that will emotionally destroy you in the best way possible. That's what I'm going to say as far as my thoughts. And if that one sentence pitch doesn't get you, then I'm sorry, but I tried my best. And hopefully Oni's final words there can help sort of sway you to giving it a watch, because it is so good. It is so good. But listeners, viewers, Segoy Squad, that's Oshinoko episode 1, a near 90-minute emotional marathon that redefined what anime premieres could be. Oni, thank you for surviving this with me. And for everyone listening, if you haven't watched it yet, what the goddamn hell are you waiting for? As Oni mentioned, just bring tissues, because you're most certainly going to need them. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to not only this podcast, but all the other podcasts you listen to on the regular. Those ratings and reviews take no time, cost you no money, and mean the world to content creators like ourselves. If you can also do me a follow, please check out all my video content on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. There's some really cool stuff to be found there, such as In Bloom and the new manga/manhwa Monday segments that I'm starting to do. Check out IST Aesthetics. And be sure to use code Sakura Society 5, that is the number 5, at checkout to get the best in anime-related streetwear. Find me everywhere at More Than Senpai and the socials. And find the legendary Oni at OniVT_, or potentially a second underscore, depending on the platforms, yeah?
Yeah. Just unfortunately, some people got there first.
Sons of bitches. So that is, yeah, OniVT_ or OniVT_ with 2. Oni, anything you'd like to shout out before we got in out of here?
No, I'm all good.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for jumping on in here. It is always a pleasure to talk with you on and off the microphone. But yeah, find him on them socials. Links will be in the show notes below. And be sure to get over to one of his future streams as he slowly but surely takes over the VTuber world. But whether your anime be subbed, dubbed, or still yet to come, enjoy yourself, and much love to all the gorgeous waifus and husbandos out there. Goodbye.